Secretary Gina Raimondo, meanwhile, wrapped up her 4-day trip in China yesterday, urging Beijing leadership to take action to address recent raids and fines on U.S. businesses. Watch this.
We want a dynamic trade relationship, but we want one that serves American workers and businesses and that's in our interest. And in order for that to happen, there have to be some changes. Because U.S. business, in many cases, patience is wearing thin. U.S. business needs to see some action taken to address these issues. Otherwise, they will deem it as just too risky. And as I said, uninvestable. What it is not is decoupling or looking to hold back the Chinese economy.
Raimondo is saying that decoupling is not in the U.S. economic or national security goals. But I spoke with the former U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer yesterday about this very topic, and here's what he said.
We have to have a phased-in, clear policy of strategic decoupling. We have to disentangle our technology so that future technology is not dependent. Our defense industry is dependent on China. And the third part of strategic decoupling has to be outgoing and ingoing investment. It can only be in situations where it helps the United States. It's the capital markets, but it's also these individual investors.
Yeah.
We should have a clear policy where if they invest here, it's in our interest.
Joining me right now is the Atlas Organization founder. He is the author of the latest book, The Decisive Decade, a must-read, by the way. Jonathan D.T. Ward back with me. Jonathan, good to see you. I know that you agree with Robert Lighthizer in terms of decoupling, but you just heard what Gina Raimondo says. She says absolutely no decoupling. What do you see that this administration may not be seeing?
Well, look, I think you're starting to see a divergence in views of what to do about China. I mean, there's a lot of consensus on the China challenge, the China threat, whatever people want to call it. I mean, that's pretty broad now. But how to handle this? I mean, we're starting to see two very different approaches. And the current administration, I think, is going backwards into the old U.S. strategy, which was called engage but hedge, which basically said, look, we're going to have a business relationship, a deep economic relationship, and then we'll try to maintain military power. The problem with that is you lose the military edge over time. And their adjustment to that is this idea of a small garden, high fence, meaning there are just a handful of key technologies and industries that we need to protect. I mean, most importantly among those being semiconductors, quantum, AI, those sorts of high-tech things. But I think the problem is it misunderstands that this is a much, much broader competition for power, one that Beijing is going to wage through real global economic strategies. And I think their approach simply fails to deal with Beijing's actual grand strategy. In order to dismantle their actual strategy, you have to go for the trunk of the tree, and that has to do with the fact that China can no longer rise, and it will not be able to compete unless it has access to our markets, our allies' markets, our capital, our allies' capital, and, of course, our technology and our allies' technology. Yeah. So they're focused on technology. They basically have a technology strategy, not a China strategy.
That's right.
And that's a real problem because we don't have a lot of time to get this right.
A lot of time until what?
Well, I mean, you know, they're building up, on one hand, preparing for a conflict with the United States, and on the other, waging a global economic strategy that seeks to basically rebalance the global economy so it's more and more and more dependent on China. And that's something that they're doing quite well. I mean, I think people are not yet able to extract their supply chains. We're seeing China's share of global manufacturing go up. I mean, their share of components that go into many, many industries has not been resolved in our favor. So you have all of these critical industries and supply chains that actually have to be restructured.
Yeah.
So when people talk about decoupling, I mean, to me, it's really about restructuring the global economy so it does not depend on China, so the U.S. is the largest, by far, center of gravity. So we're using U.S. demand to pull the right nations to our side and away from China, and so that we're simply not investing in the rise of our primary adversary, building its military, as Bob said, and as I've written about at great length, and preparing them for conflict with us. And by the way, I mean, their ideology is one that ultimately seeks that conflict. I mean, their history is to teach countries lessons through military force over time, and we are absolutely in the target zone for that. So if and when that comes, you know, it will be because we didn't act.
There was a quote from Xi Jinping when they celebrated the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party a year or two ago, and Xi Jinping told the people, and it's in his speech, he said, we have to ensure that the whole world depends on the China supply chain so that we can turn it off. when we deem appropriate. I mean, he actually said that. And their strategy is showing us exactly what they're doing anyway. We talked a lot about all of these new laws that they've put into place, like the PRC anti-foreign sanctions law, or the Unreliable Entities List law, or the China cybersecurity law, enabling the CCP to march into any company it wants and basically raid the place like they did at Bain and Company. And then right in front of our eyes, we're seeing this surveillance program underway, surveilling American citizens. I want to get your take on what Meta just announced. It just announced, the head of Facebook, that it shut down what's being called the largest known online covert influence operation in the world on Meta. This is Instagram and Facebook. Meta says it removed more than 7,700 Facebook and Instagram accounts linked to Chinese law enforcement. The campaign was aimed at advancing China's interests and discrediting adversaries. The operation impacted more than 50 apps dating back to 2019, Jonathan. I mean, if this is not evidence in and of itself of what the CCP is doing, so when you see all this hatred and this fighting in America, it's because of this Marxist thread partly coming from the CCP, if you believe what Meta just told us.
Well, look, I mean, there's no question that China and Russia as well, I mean, they're going to use every platform available to us. I mean, they're going to use their access to our own society to advance their interests and their narratives. And, you know, both of those countries see the information domain as one of the critical domains for broader conflict with the West. So, you know, it's not surprising to see this. And I think it's absolutely commendable to see what Meta has done here, taking it down and, you know, telling the world that they've done that. And, you know, it was on a whole lot of other platforms too. I mean, TikTok, obviously, and then also Twitter, now X, and Instagram, and a bunch of different platforms. So, so this sort of operation is something that I think reminds us that, you know, China is looking to advance an anti-American narrative. A lot of what they were doing was also in multiple languages, so they're targeting other countries as well. Also Chinese diaspora, I mean, trying to change the narrative among those that speak Chinese. And then certainly, you know, just using the platforms themselves. So it's a reminder that this conflict is going to be fought, you know, also by our companies, and certainly it's going to touch our companies in many, many ways. I mean, as in the Second World War and the Cold War, I mean, our companies are going to be part of this. So to see them taking this sort of action that is, you know, commendable for the United States to go after this, you know, abuse of a platform in this instance is very important. And I think we're going to see more things like this.
By the way, we are going to speak with Representative Michael Gallagher coming up in the show. He, of course, is the chairman of the subcommittee on China. He wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post this week. Americans are unwittingly financing the CCP. It has to stop. We'll talk with Congressman Gallagher about that coming up. But this is an issue that you've brought up many times over the last several years. How are we unwittingly funding the CCP, our adversary? Jonathan, real quick.
Well, that's right, Maria. I mean, that's a huge problem. I mean, the fact is all kinds of Chinese corporations are in the index funds. You know, many of those are tied to the military, to the surveillance state, to the broader enterprise of the rise of China, which I think is not in our strategic interest. I mean, basically, we're funneling, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars through passive index funds, and then, of course, foreign direct investment, which is corporate decision making. So all of that is what's enabled, to a large extent, the rise of China. And, you know, I think Mike here is specifically referring to pension funds and indexes, and that I think should be the next focus. I mean, we need a real capital market strategy. You and I have talked about this for years now.
Yes, we have.
And if we could see action on that, right, in the next 12 months, I think that would be a very important next phase. I mean, this administration's focused on technology. If Congress can understand capital markets, and ultimately if our banks and, you know, major companies start to get this, I think especially in the absence of a real competition policy with China, the decision making is going to be left to business leaders. It's going to be left to them to decide how risky this is, and hopefully they'll make the right decisions in their own interests and in the interest of this country.
Jonathan, great to have you as always. Thanks very much.
Thank you.